Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is DB333, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4 with New Order, Last Days of Europe as the good old US of A. Now, in last video, we really started intervening in the Boer War, or the South African War, I should say. The Boers were knocked out pretty quickly. We got the OFN unity to get pretty high. And we're currently we also have elections going on, which are looking pretty good for the NPP, which is good, because that's what we want. And I also got some chocolate milk, so I am happy. The NPP center is flipping all over the place. Texas is probably saying RD, which is fine. We don't want to do not anything too crazy. Let's check the Senate, because that shows you the enthusiasm. Man, we're doing really good as RFK, as the NPP, so we're going to have to... Oh, Prescott Bush, isn't that, George Sr.'s dad? Bush Jr.'s granddad? Either way, yeah, we're doing kind of terrifyingly well right now. Which has me a little worried about when we go over for Glenn. Well, worst case scenario, we'll figure out some way to get out of that. Now I should go ahead and start my timer. Oh, also, impeachment is probably going to happen soon for Tricky Dick. Which, that makes sense historically. I mean, I want to get into history a little bit, real life history, not just this. Because, I mean, if there's one thing I can kind of talk about, it is American history. As President of the United States, it is my honor to recognize Her Excellency Vyaja Lakshmi Pandit, Flash, as Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary from the Republic of India to the United States. Flash, Nehru's sister. Marty Lettinator thought, hell of a prick. Marty only got the call an hour ago. The White House wanted a photographer on hand for this historic moment, and they figured he was unlikely to leak anything until after the credentialing ceremony. President Nixon and Ambassador Pandit picked up the binder of credentials and held up to treat them, smiling gamely at the classic style. Flash. Marty can only picture what it was like in the Tokyo Foreign Office right now. The former recognition of the Republic over Japanese puppets in the Z-Teen would surely drive plenty of ire. Then again, he thought, it's not like tensions weren't high already. How bad could this be? Sir, the Calcuttan representative is on line 1. He sounds mad. I wonder why. Let's go ahead and give him our money. Another constraint of the Republic of India faces is the dearth of both capital and means to generate such. Rampant tax evasion, nurtured by an antiquated Byzantine code of regulations, hampers New Delhi's industrial programs with an ever-present shortfall of money. These factors lock their economy under a perpetual stagnating cycle between a lack of cash for building factories and a lack of factories for making cash. Fortunately, both American investment and American factories are willing to cross two oceans for Indians' relief. All it needs is President Nixon's fountain pen and, of course, some incentives from the country's ample reserves. Of course. I think here we're just really holding them off, so, these guys can be taken out and encircled. Here we're trying to, take back the good core of South Africa. Here we'll go ahead. Ustaza has been defeated. Thank God. That's probably for the best. They won the fucking Scorza! Of course we can't have the fucking democratic game. Of course we can't. God fucking damn it. I'm mildly upset. I'm not gonna lie. I wanted to have that sort of... I wanted to have content in Italy, but I guess we're not having content. But hey, what are you gonna do, I guess? The East Coast is very narrow across the line, electorally. So we might want to head over there next. Well, we're doing well thus far. Up, up. Uh-oh. Some cop thought it was a good idea to snoop behind the jalopy, so now my skull's split open like a watermelon. Well, not actually split open, but you know what I mean. At least I'm baked enough to shrug off the migraine a bit. Gotta ask Carlos where he gets his buds sometimes. We're buddies, so it's no big deal, right? It's no fun grounding yourself in your own house just because of an injury. Nothing to do but toke, watch the bullshit the media shovels, maybe get around to finishing some coursework. Just kidding, I haven't touched a textbook in months. It's just toke and watch bullshit, pretty much. Seeing your mug for a flash second before Cronkite plays the scripts about hooligans in the streets gets old and thin quick. Erie thought I should get a hobby. I say, why bother, man? All I'm good at is smoking pot and give myself a concussion for doing a decent thing. Now the Army's out to hand me my papers any day now. What do hobbies matter when a Nazi's bound to riddle my chest with lead either way, man? Can't understand her sometimes, honestly, but I guess that's part of her charm. Her helpfulness and sunny, bright outlook, I mean. In other news, prom's coming up. Can either go stag or go with something. Kidding again, who's the poor sap who want to partner up with poor old me? But the food's free, and that's all that matters. I'll probably just loiter around and leave as soon as I get my fill of the buffet line. Saving the dancing for the phonies lucky enough to have a future. Alright, more as soon as I find something new to talk about. Tomorrow, day after that, next acid trip, who knows? Peace out, Jules. But yeah, talking about like the history, one thing I love is that Nixon is Kennedy is Nixon's VP because in our timeline in 1960, John F. Kennedy was elected up against Richard Nixon because Nixon was Eisenhower's VP. Nixon was coasting off a very popular what am I thinking of? A very popular presidency with Eisenhower, because Eisenhower is, both then and now, is one of our better presidents, if not, I don't know about greatest, but he's definitely up there. And so he was coasting off that, but then you had Tricky Dick, who was a VP, and running for Republicans. And then you had Johnny Boy, John Kennedy, who just was undeniably charismatic figure. We'll send you guys over here, actually. And that was the first time debates were ever televised, and so people got to see them, their people, you know, the people debating there. And so you had Kennedy and Nixon up on the debate stage, and it was interesting because people who listened to the debate on radio thought that, generally speaking, Nixon won. But if you saw it on TV, you probably thought Kennedy won, because Nixon was kind of awkward, a little bit, how do I put it? He was sweating. I think he had a fever. What the fuck? What are we paying our fucking advisors for? God damn it! Sorry, I just pulled a Nixon there and started yelling at my fucking interns for no reason. Kind of uncharismatic, a little limp on stage. Not uncharismatic. He had a certain amount of charisma to him. He does, if you listen to him speak. But a lot of people viewed him as incompetent, kind of awkward. While Kennedy, very smooth operator. If you ever hear him speak, if you ever listen to speeches of him, the whole fucking Kennedy family has this magnetic quality. At least like the early, like the Cold War era Kennedys, Bobby, Johnny, and Eddie. Oh, Jesus. The men were let out of a state, war, and Navy building in handcuffs by FBI agents, trying their best not to look remorseful in front of the press's dozens popping flashbulbs. Their charges had yet been announced publicly, but few had any doubts about what they were. Those who hadn't violated federal wiretapping laws were invariably involved in the cover-up that followed. The press was less interested in what crimes they committed, however, and more in who ordered them. They were all racing to answer one question. How high up does it go? Richard Nixon watched the parade from 180, silently fuming as he condemned this condemnable march past the press and into a waiting police van. He knew Hoover could have dragged his feet and delayed the warrants if he wanted to, but he clearly had no interest in sticking by his president. Should have fired the bastard on day one, Nixon muttered to himself as the van sped off, and the reporters dispersed. Pardoning them could have worked, but that would require them to be tried and convicted first, not to mention burning away more goodwill than it's worth. Like the other messes bearing down upon him, Nixon would need allies and time to get out of this, and both were in dangerous short supply. The News Titans. So yeah, Nixon lost in 1960 to Kennedy. It was close. It was very close. It ended up, Illinois ended up being the deciding state. There's some allegations that, like there always is, I think, historically, where, Tricky Dick, what was it exactly? I think it was, Kennedy allegedly had ties to the mafia, and since they had presence in Chicago, they swung the vote for him, which, it's a fun little theory. I doubt it happened, but it's always interesting to think about it. Magadan is doing pretty well. There we go. But yeah, you know, we all know what happened. Kennedy gets shot, LBJ comes in, does a okay job, you know, on civil policy-wise, and then he does Vietnam, and that fucks up any chance of the Democrats winning again. Iberia gains control of Algeria. We'll see what happens there. So yeah. If you look at, so Nixon is elected in 68. And, Nixon's always kind of been an interesting president for me, because, you know, everyone thinks of it like Watergate for him, and that wasn't good by any means. He did a fair bit of other stuff, though, that was actually more interesting, at least, and arguable about how good it is. Ooh. As the war effort in South Africa continues to ramp up, so does our involvement of our Iberian partners. The Iberians, much to our pleasure, have stood behind their commitment within the conflict and have continued to provide much coveted support of our forces as well as those of our allies. In a recent communication, the Iberians have pledged significant expansion to their existing support within the war. The communications to Washington, D.C. outline many intricacies and details. Where do you want to campaign? Hold on. Many intricacies and details within the conflict. However, one edge within the document stands out from the others. It'll be interesting. We'll have to read it in a second once I decide where to campaign. I'm thinking... We'll campaign on the west coast, try to lock that down the best we can. The Iberian island of Sao Tome, which rests just north of the equator, not far off the coast of Central and West Africa, carries great potential as a logistics hub for the duration of the conflict. Following the establishment of Iberian operations in South Africa, they now believe the situation will be appropriate at least access to the island to us, granting us an invaluable logistical assets. Senior military officials believe that the port of Sao Tome may be efficiently used as a logistics waypoint and further as a possible airbase for bomber aircraft fleets. Whilst plans for usage of the island remain in the preliminary stages, we have gracefully accepted the Iberian lease proposal, and it's estimated that logistical operations upon the island will commence in a matter of mere months. Well, that is a great boost to the war effort, and we will gladly take it. Let's see if we can't choke these guys out by the time that... Cheerio! Binder, grinder, burner with fire. Cast her ashes into the sea. She shall escape, she shall aspire. She shall arise to make men free. Now that's jolly good right there. So we have another ally in Europe working for us. Nope. Looks like we're going to get pushed back there. Oh, actually. And that was worth a shot, though. Her Majesty's Most Loyal Resistance have won. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go. So we have an ally in Europe, at least, which is nice. Very nice. Polls are updated. Let's see what's happening. Toss-ups in the Rockies. In Wisconsin, Southwest is a bit of a toss-up. Toss-up in the Southwest, fascinatingly enough. But Democrat Party incumbent, I think that's Goldwater, right? It might be Hayden, actually. Now, I think there's a Republican before, and then it swapped over to Goldwater. Well, Portuguese colonial administration over Mozambique and Angola is a thing of the past, not more than a mention within the history books. The recency of the history now has potential to pay dividends within the war effort. A recent colonial coordination effort hosted in Washington, senior members of the Iberian military provided to us a plethora of dated maps and documentation hailing from late era of Portuguese colonial control in Mozambique and Angola. The content of the documents provides details at great length upon the industrial and infrastructural specifications in various vital regions within Mozambique and Angola, now controlled by the Reichskommissariats of the Africa Shield. We estimate that the maps, while outdated, are likely to this day accurate to a high degree. The information provided by the Liberians should prove invaluable to our contested effectiveness of the American bombing campaigns against our enemies, as we begin to accurately strike vital enemy logistical and industrial centers. May the bombs rain down there even more accurately than before. I personally bless the bomb rains down in Africa. It takes some time to do the things we never had. New expansions to dockyards at Kandla, financed by Wells Fargo, Obank, and TIA. Blast furnaces courtesy of engineers from Buffalo Steel to kickstart a new iron industry in Karnataka. Agreements from companies such as Fruit of the Loom, Woolrick, and Brooks Brothers to source more cotton from fields in Gujarat and Andhra Pradesh. All of these developments and more are filling financial papers across the country. Seems that every American company with enough capital is pulling enough money into Indian projects. The state of U.S.-Indian relations is at an all-time high, and as a result, investors see incredible opportunities in the Republic. India will get new jobs and boost in incomes, while American companies will reap new profits, and American consumers will be able to buy cheap goods. It's a win-win. Tell me more about these mythical investments in India. Oh. I wonder how much time we have, really. And we'll do this to try to get some more RD. I think we already read that, so there's no reason to reread it. American society is somewhat united, which will have no significant electoral effects. Let's do some arms shipments and increase some support for Magadan. From general chaos of foreign pact, message from Brest has reached us. The British Republic informs us that they have broken free of German rule. Among their first tasks as free nation, they have chosen to contact a number of leading world powers. The broadcasts are considered as mere declarations of independence for the international community, not as demands for recognition of the independence for Britain. Despite the chaotic situation in Germany, it remains to be seen if the Britons can hold on to their newfound freedom. Congrats, I suppose. I guess let's target the... no, we can't. We have to pay for that. Okay. And that'll be enough. 40 million. Operation commenced. If we lose at 3%, then good for them, I guess. Shit. Yeah, these guys are just wasting their time and energy and resources on us. We're going to take Windhoek soon enough. I think soon enough, at least. Windhoek. Got some advanced drop fuel tanks. Should help out our planes. Is there anything industry-wise? Let's get working. Actually, let's work on the military construction, because we're a bit behind on... we're getting close to being behind on that. So let's work on it now. Today, the Active Shield suffered serious blow despite constant aerial bombings from increasingly desperate defenders. The South African Army, supported by elements of the OFN, have taken Windhoek, administrative center of the Rijk Südwest Africa. Schenck has managed to flee the city on his personal fighter, and in the first statement has sworn to bring back the German flag to Windhoek, but with the Western Front in disarray and Shield troops still retreating, many doubt whether he'll be able to keep faith to his word. I mean, I doubt it, I know. And if I'm not mistaken, he went with, yeah, he's doing the collaborative one. He's sticking with them. What about, Hutig? What is he up to? Developing Boer Industries. Oh, fun fact! Hutig got a hot new portrait, and it apparently isn't Hutig. Fun fact. I think it's supposed to be the guy who served under Hutig. So, Hutig no longer has that yee-ass haircut, but he's probably not going to get any bitches on his dick, because they're going to realize that's not actually Hans Hutig. Well, I hate to be him. Especially because of a genocide. The genocide is very not good. The U.S. Air Force hits a Luandan arms factory. Following exchange of information between Iberian and American militaries, the USAF has been in position with detailed information upon the logistical and industrial layouts of the Africa Shield-controlled regions of Mozambique and Angola. The intelligence has not been left to waste. Yesterday afternoon, USAF bombers struck at industrial centers within Luanda, where significant arms production has been undertaken for the duration of the conflict in South Africa. Due to information provided by Iberian intelligence, American bombers were able to fall with deadly accuracy upon essential edifices within the local industry, causing irreparable damage and bringing a significant share of arms production in the region to a complete halt. Due to the quick and devastating nature of the new American bombing campaigns, it's hoped by many senior officials the productive capabilities of the Reichskommissars will be significantly hindered for the duration of the conflict. Despite this, the overall effect of the reinvigorated American bombing campaign upon the overall effectiveness of the Africa Shield has not yet to be determined, but it is a significant blow to the enemy war machine. Look at that. South African Boer War. South Africa's standing strong. 73,000 deaths versus 232,000 deaths. Beautiful. Truly beautiful. Brings a tear to my eye right now. Mene Tekel Ufarsen. Ooh. Senators Johnson and Bennett. Senators Johnson, Bennett, and Speaker of the House McCormick sat across from President Nixon in the Oval Office, but tension between all three congressmen so thick you could cut it with a knife. All the formalities have been dealt with, so all that remained was their assessment of how the oncoming impeachment trial would go. McCormick was the first to break the ice. The situation on Capitol Hill is, to put it bluntly, sir, gloomy. Nixon's brow furrowed. Damn gloomy. Yes, sir, McCormick replied, not missing a beat. When the articles of impeachment are read before the House, there is no question as to which way the vote will go. As for the Senate, Johnson looked over where McCormick left off. In the Senate, you'll need, 34 votes to quit? You'll probably get 12, maybe 15 if you're lucky. Even up with the fear of God into every center of the floor, you'd never hit 34. In which way would you gentlemen vote? Nixon asked the senators. There was a brief stare at the floor, their silence betraying their intentions. For a brief moment, a maelstrom of rage seemed to brew behind Nixon's eyes, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. The rest of the meeting was rather unremarkable, and the Senate departed the White House in a swarm of journalists trying to glean a hint of what went on in there. Nixon, however, would not reveal his thoughts on the meeting until he sat down for dinner with his wife and daughters that night. Girls, we're moving back to California. Aw. Tricky Dick is on his way out. Whew. The whole debacle began when a group of college students decided to hold a demonstration in New York. Enough was enough, they said. America must leave South Africa immediately. War was good for absolutely nothing but the pockets of Def's business-suited merchants, and neither rhetoric nor propaganda can sway their commitment to peace and love for all men. So with their long-flowing hair and picket signs and slogans, they packed Wall and Broad streets by the thousands to press their unconditional demands. The city's working men disagreed. Among their most vocal is Peter J. Brennan, president of the Alliance of New York's largest construction and engineering unions. To a man, he and his fellow union men agreed. America had a moral obligation to protect democracy from fascism's encroachment, not just at home, but also abroad. Dissent from the war effort was tantamount to treason. So with their hard hats, old glories, and steel-toed boots, 2,000 construction workers coalesced into a counter-protest in Federal Hall to profess their unconditional patriotism. All that kept a semblance of order was a thin, shaky border of policemen sandwiched between the two raucous mobs, and when it broke or opened wide as a gatekeeper does when bribed, order to collapse into the bouts of naked assault. Hippies and hard hats brawled each other out until they couldn't anymore, while a broad swath of New York laid sacrificial as collateral damage. It took the city 2 hours to rein both in, but by then more than 70 people and untold millions in property damage had fallen to one of the most riots since the Civil War. President Nixon is expected to make an announcement to ameliorate tensions lingering from the Hardhat riot, though whether or not it can succeed, to do so remains. How does one temper the spirit of millions? No. President Nixon stared at the faces surrounding him in the East Room. Staffers, Secret Service, cooks, custodians, all of them having served his administration as loyal as we could for the past 4 years. He decided to pontificate to them for a few minutes. At the very least, they could learn what not to do. And remember, he concluded, that your enemies may try to drag you down. Never stoop down to their level. Never sink into pettiness and spite. Never submerge yourself in hate, because once you do, they will triumph, and you will destroy yourself. It's been an honor. Thank you. He stepped out of the East Room to muted applause. With all the paperwork signed and noon just seconds away, President Nixon opened the door to the south lawn of the White House, holding it for Pat, Tricia, and Julie, followed by John and Jackie Kennedy. The press, of course, turned out to revel in his dethronement, a final twist of a night. Nixon took it in stride. He wouldn't be there for them to kick him around much longer. At the stairway to Marine One, Nixon shook Kennedy's hand, simply stating, "Keep her steady, Jack." He climbed the stairway and turned around for one last look at the White House, the staff, the guards, the reporters, the cameras, and he couldn't stop himself from smiling. He gave a wave and threw up 2 V for victory signs, chuckling at the fervent applause he got from the crowd. He then turned around and stepped onto Marine One and into history. He was soon borne away by the waves, lost in the darkness and distance. As of noon today, President Richard Nixon has officially resigned his post of President of the United States, the first to do so in nearly 200 years of American history. Nixon stood accused of wiretapping his rivals in the National Press Party in the 1960 election, as well as the obstruction of justice for trying to cover up the deed. With impeachment inevitable, he left of his own accord rather than be convicted and removed. The office falls to President John F. Kennedy, son of former President Joseph F. P. Kennedy. A charismatic figure, he has drawn both praise from progressives and ire from segregationists for his support of civil rights. Or if he can step out of a Nixon administration's shadow and forge his own legacy has yet to be seen. Can Kennedy hold the nation together? I was talking about Nixon before. I just remembered. And I don't think I finished the point. Yeah, he's a complicated guy because he's done some okay stuff and some questionable stuff. One of the biggest things I can think of is the EPA, which he passed, I think, right after Silent Spring was written. And this was back, when climate change was not a partisan issue, but was in fact a issue that both sides of the aisle realized was a big thing, which, unfortunately, nowadays it seems like most people can't agree to that. He also did, what else do you think? He had some interesting ideas. One of the things that was interesting that he almost passed universal basic income. A lot of people in the Yang gang might remember how Yang would always bring up how Nixon almost passed it. In fact, it was the Democrats who didn't pass it because they wanted more money. And then there's questions about whether or not it's a ploy to just get rid of Social Security or welfare states or whatever, but it's interesting. He also was the guy who opened up. I think it was either him or Carter who did. He either opened up relations with China or reestablished permanent trade relations with China. And that kind of opens us up to the whole thing we're at now, which it's complicated, needless to say. So yeah, huh. I don't think he's one of the better presidents. I don't think Nixon's one of the worst presidents, but he's not one of the best presidents in my opinion. But we don't have to worry about Nixon anymore. Instead, we have John Kennedy. John Fitzgerald Kennedy's path to political prominence was one overshadowed by other controversies. Scion of the powerful Kennedy family, and son of President Joseph Kennedy, John found himself recalled from the Pacific Front after his elder brother Joseph Jr.'s death, and has been groomed to follow in his father's footsteps ever since. For the years following the 1948 election and the implosion of the Democratic Party, the Kennedys, with the exception of John's brother Robert, loyally followed the shattered remains of the party to the GOP, becoming members of the Republican Democrat Party. Some predicted that John's career would be tainted by the failures of Kennedy the Elder's administration, but John's personal charisma and political savvy were enough to help him grow out of his father's shadow. In 1960, he was on the Republican Democrats' victorious vice presidential ticket. Unfortunately, his running mate was Richard Nixon. Now John found himself thrust into the leadership of a nation in turmoil, one desperately looks to him for guidance. But for every American who sees him as a beacon of stability, there is one who sees him as an obstacle. Ardent segregationists fear that his idealism will lead to furthering civil rights legislation, and committed progressives scorn him for not being as passionate as his brother Robert. Fate has ordained John F. Kennedy to be the one to steer the ship of the state, but will he be the one to guide it out of dangerous waters? Well, I believe we're gonna... Operational success, I think... Well, done, gentlemen. Let's work on the Kennedy presidency. After resignation of Richard Nelson Nixon, it appears Americans once again are able to look at a leader who inspires trust, hope, and confidence in John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Having desired the presidency for many years, it appears Providence has done what JFK could not. Cleared of wrongdoings in the Nixon scandal, Kennedy stands ready, with the support of a nation, to help the United States into a truly greater and freer country. From civil rights to social programs, the Kennedy presidency is shaping up to be prosperous, should he succeed in the upcoming presidential elections. Where do we want to... Operation Cuckoo, I guess? We'll work on stabilizing Iberia. Operation commenced. Have the English transitional government. What the hell are we playing these fucking advisors for? The Dirksen building had been quieter since Nixon's resignation, which had been all the better for the brothers who have now found themselves enjoying dinner once again. But now President Kennedy sat together with his brother Robert, who still served faithfully as his chief of staff. I'm proud of you, you know. The circumstances aren't ideal, but I can think of no better man to be the president right now. Robert could barely contain his adoring smile. Think of all the things we can finally accomplish. Come on, Bobby. That was a Hank Hill impression, not a John Kennedy. Come on, Bobby. You're embarrassing me, chuckled John, who beamed nonetheless. But thank you. I know I can always count on you. Always. Like I'd leave you for the NPP or anyone else, especially when you're about to give this country the change it so desperately deserves. Robert's enthusiasm, seemingly infectious, prompted more laughs from his brother. Now. We've got a lot of work to get through before we can set things in motion. He looked more serious, more determined. The party's image is somewhat tarnished at the moment with Nixon's fiasco, so I've arranged some trips across the country to show up support. At this, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a long itinerary of events and dates in various states and cities and handed to Robert. Of course, we do have an election to worry about, Robert frowned before reverting to a smile. Come on, Jack. I suppose we can just enjoy this meal before your big tour. You earned it. And so the brothers sat for a while longer, enjoying their food in peace. As time finally came for them to leave, Robert quickly glanced at a long list and noted his brother's first destination. He smiled at his brother one last time before they departed. I know you do great, Jack. I'll see you when you get back from Dallas. A fond farewell. Yeah, I'm thinking we want to do maybe campaign on the East Coast next. This is not kind of dual authorities. It's the Aryans who are winning. Oh God. The Kennedy presidency. We'll do heal the people, and then we'll do a fair deal, a square deal. Where public anger over Nixon's peculiarities have not come to an end, its effects have not. The American people are still suffering from steep social issues and unemployment rate not seen since the Great Depression. This is one of the main issues that the president's been working towards fixing. With the majority of Congress standing behind him, Kennedy can finally enact legislation to heal the American people. They call him the father. Lessons from Rebel. Well, we're still working on. We'll do some tank stuff, and then I'm seeing a lot of helicopter bonuses. I already know what we're doing now. Overwhelming support. Our helicopters are somehow going to become better, guys. Are you not excited? Because I'm sure as fuck am. Operational success, Tain expertise. Some good old outside aid for Iberian unity. How's the war going? Speer is getting beaten back. It's going to be between Bormann and Goring. I guess Heydrich's still technically in it. The man from Angola climbed a staircase 2 steps at a time. Surprised he hadn't been stopped yet. At the top he would find the office of the man they called Mr. Joe Kennedy. The American king or prime minister or whatever it was they had. The big boss, anyway. There it was. He'd been able to plead his case, and perhaps they could help. A young man stepped out of his office and looked at the Angolan with surprise. Sorry, he said, but you can't just walk up here. Was this John Kennedy? He tried to remember the lines he practiced in the mirror. Excuse me, are you Joe Kennedy? The white man looked at him with furrowed brow. I'm his chief of staff, Robert. What is this about? Who are you? The Angolan struggled to remember the right words in English. I am Angolan. I come here to America because of the Germans. They cause much suffering. Since I come here, I ask for help for Angola, as all they say, America is for freedom, but nobody lets me speak. I want to speak to Joe Kennedy for my people. Robert Kennedy had heard about the killings in Angola. The Germans had been slaughtering people all over the world for 20 years, and people had become desensitized to it. But, he thought, maybe it was worth trying. Even if he only saved a few people, surely it was worthwhile. Surely he had a duty to convince his brother. Kennedy smiled at Angolan. Well, you sure don't have an appointment, but why don't we come in? I'm sure we can spare a few minutes for your concerns. If we can make the world just a little bit better, we should. We have a lot of decisions. Central East Coast. We're doing pretty good in general. very content with this result. So here's something I think we're going to do. We'll strengthen RD unity. See, they're willing to put aside their differences for now. That's okay. Though many people today see him as an incompetent monster who led the U.S. into disaster during World War II, Joseph P. Kennedy is rarely given credit for his domestic ideas. The first Catholic president, Kennedy Sr. made ambitious plans for sweeping social reforms, including one called the New Deal, to get America out of the Great Depression. With the country in a similar state to how it was during those dark times, Joseph's son, John Kennedy, stands in a position to finally pass what his father could not, a social security net. Let's do it. I'm happy we have someone like John Kennedy in office. Okay, new guy in Mexico. See the off-dem one? Social democracy, okay. I heard put Mexico back on its own feet, I thought. Off-dem? But no, Soc-dem, okay. Let's try and move to Quelamine. Polls are updated. Let's see how it's looking. Oh my god. Yeah, holy shit. We're doing very well in the East Coast. Mississippi's tilting towards the NPP. Florida's leaning towards the RDs. Wow. We might want to go to the Rockies next. Honestly, that's probably what we want to do. We'll take Quelamine. Quelamine Uprising. Yeah, the war goes on. Let's train with the Aussies. Do you want to train with the Aussies? Nothing good ever happens to the Kennedys, ladies and gentlemen. John Fitzgerald Kennedy. The newly inaugurated president of the United States smiled and waved to the crowd from the motorcade, driving him through downtown Dallas. Accompanied by Governor John Connally of Texas and their wives, Kennedy was enjoying the cool breeze through his hair, the adoration of the onlookers. He was already more popular than Nixon and had achieved significant success at calming the nation after Nixon's ignominious fall from grace. Connally turned to the president, complimenting him that no one could say Dallas didn't love him. No. Replied the president, flashing to the governor his winning smile. You certainly can't. As he turned back to the crowd, he heard a sudden blast, and his head blew apart, showering his wife with blood. As the dust settled, 2 bodies were brought into the city's morgue, the president's and that of a young man, shot dead by Officer J.D. Tippit while attempting to steal a car at gunpoint. He was later identified as Martin Joseph Henry, a Guyanese immigrant who worked as a custodian in the Dallas County Courthouse. Police investigated the courthouse, found a Carcano rifle stashed in a 4th-floor maintenance closet. Several shell casings were found by a window overstretching the stretch of road where the president was shot. A search of his apartment also revealed a motive. Henry was a fervent Guyanese nationalist, and he felt he had to stop American hegemony over his home nation at any cost. As the Speaker of the House and acting Vice President John McCormack prepares to take the oath of office, America is very slowly coming to grips with this tragedy just after wrapping their heads around the reality of Nixon's resignation. People are nervous for the future, both their own and that of a nation, but no matter how bleak it may seem, there's a sense that the American people will have to pick up the pieces and soldier on as they always have. If not us, then who? The RDR will become the ruling party. American society grows much further divided. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the newly inaugurated President of the United States, was assassinated this afternoon while being driven through the city of Dallas by a man identified as a radical Guyanese nationalist, motivated by the belief that President Kennedy was intent on hegemonizing his country. After the recent disgrace and resignation of President Nixon and the sudden and disturbing murder of his successor, the United States is in a state of shock. Speaker of the House John McCormack was raised to the White House to be sworn in as president in an attempt to gain control of a traumatized country. America has suffered through a tumultuous few years, and now the nation's future seems more uncertain than ever. Time will tell if America's rise to the occasion, or Americans will rise to the occasion, or collapse under the pressure. It takes just a second to die. Man. I remember when I first saw that event, and I probably should have expected it, to be honest, but it still hurt to see. Because, I don't know, say what you will about John Kennedy. I don't know if we got a long enough time with him in office to get a sense of him, but there's a certain sense of optimism that he definitely captured. And, with him gone. And more psychological operations are given. What's rightly known as white psyops is seen in virtually every theater of war, with the distribution of state-approved propaganda such as newspapers, posters, and leaflets among foreign populations and military ranks. What is lesser known, however, is what is called as black psyops. Throughout the South African War, Iberian psychological warfare units have conducted black psychological operations in an attempt to dissuade, demoralize, and convince enemy forces and population. These initial operations have seen some limited success. After conjunction with the CIA agency of the U.S., they hope to expand the scope of their black psyops. The Americans have proven to be rather brutal, yet effective in securing a stronger hold over South African territory. In conjunction with the South African government and Iberian psychological operations, an operation has been undertaken known as the Phoenix Program. This operation aims to conduct a covertly psychological operation upon those in South Africa who may possibly lean to support the Shield Government or the Boers. Through exposure, public humiliation, arrest, and even torture, the CIA and Iberians conduct a campaign of terror among the civilian population who lean in support of the enemy, attempting to neutralize the membership of hostile organizations. This is just one of the many black psyops conducted by the CIA, from whom the Iberians have been taking ample notes. The agency is making headway. Don't you love cooperation and diplomacy? Anywho, yeah, R.I.P. John Kennedy. And that's a good place to leave it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you as always for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and leave a like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you want to see more of this content in the future, go ahead and hit the subscribe button for uploads every weekday, as well as every Saturday. If you have any comments, feedback, concerns, anything of the sort, go ahead and leave them in the comment section below. I read all the comments I get, and I appreciate any and all feedback you kind of folks might have for me. If you want to send me bucks my way, I have a Patreon. If you want to chat or play games, I have a Discord. If you want to see me do sort of stuff live, I have a Twitch, all of which are down in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. My name has been DB333. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.